already a Trump-appointed special counsel at the time investigating the origins of the Russia probe, but did not find any evidence of political interference. And Senator, at the time, you agreed with the findings of the intelligence community. I want to play back what you said at the time. Take a look.
Yep. The Russians did it. It was the Russians who tried to interfere in our election. Every member of the committee agrees it was the Russians. They didn't change the outcome, but they did release information embarrassing to the Democratic Party. It did affect Hillary Clinton. There's only one person in Washington that I know of that has any doubt about what Russia did in our election, and it's President Trump.
Senator, are you now saying that you don't believe that Russia tried to interfere in the 2016 election?
NBC News, as you can see, had a lot of fun over the weekend, embarrassing their favorite gelded Republican, or Republican in name only, Senator Lindsey Graham, or Lady Lindsey, as we like to call him here at The Absolute Truth, hoisting Graham by his own Russiagate-believing petard. Are the people of South Carolina not sick and tired of this guy yet and his never Trump lies? Well, it seems like they might be getting a little sick and tired of old Lady Lindsey's constant shilling for the deep state. A poll of likely Republican primary voters in South Carolina conducted in May of this year indicated that an astonishing 57% of all registered GOP voters in the Palmetto State would vote for Graham's primary challenger. That's pretty big. And with hits like this from Graham, who could blame him?
Lindsey Graham here. Welcome to Charleston, to my defense contractor friends. Appreciate all you do to keep America strong and safe, and I'm a big fan of robust defense budgets to keep the world safe. And the best way to prevent war is to make people believe if you get in war with America, you're going to lose it. And that's where y'all come in, to make sure that our men and women have the best equipment, the best training in the world. God bless, enjoy Charleston, and have a great holiday.
That fawning video of Graham welcoming and effusively praising major defense contractors who were vacationing in Charleston back in 2015 is basically the entirety of Graham's worldview, all in 30 seconds, summed up more or less. In fact, looking back at Graham's campaign record, according to Open Secrets, a government watchdog group, from 2015 to 2024, Graham's re-election campaigns received millions of dollars from defense contractors. Enter our friend and next guest, Paul Dans. He's a veteran of the first Trump administration and one of the best people from that administration. He's also a solid America First Republican. Paul Dans is rising to the challenge and seeking to overturn Lindsey Graham's vice grip-like hold on the Palmetto State before he turns it into one giant arms factory. Paul, it's so good to see you. And usually I don't give such effusive praise to candidates. You know, I just let their words speak for themselves. But I have to say, I've known you over the years, and I am thrilled for the people of South Carolina that you've entered the race. I think probably even the polling is probably worse now on Lindsey Graham. And I think, and we'll get into this in a moment, okay, because I think this is a relevant conversation to be had as we're seeing Tulsi Gabbard release all this Russiagate information. It doesn't look good for Lindsey Graham when you pair up what he said in 2017 and what he knew as a senator then and what he was saying publicly. We'll get into that in a moment. But why enter the race? I mean, politics is tough. You are a South Carolinian. Why enter?
Oh, we have kids. We need a future for this country. This man is a warmonger. He has no stake in this country. I'm telling your audience everything they already know. He is for endless wars. He's for endless government. He's for endless spending. And as you know, he was one of the original gangster hucksters of that Russia hoax. And you saw him just completely at a loss for words on Sunday there. Everything's going to unravel. We are going to vet him for the first time ever. He's now finally facing a viable candidate, and we're going to take him out. This is the land of patriots. And Emerald, I say you rank in that same kind of patriot class of the people who were here for 250 years ago down here. And I say greetings from Charleston, and I'm not greeting a bunch of defense contractors. I'm greeting a bunch of patriots all across the land on the Lindell network. Here in Charleston, we have more patriots per square mile pretty much, and they are resting in their eternal rest, and they're growing a little bit restless, honestly, watching this great nation bequeathed to us, and it falling into the hands of people like Lindsey Graham. So we're standing up for that. I'm a dad of 4. You know, my wife's run a small business, just like Mike, and you know, hoped one day we will make it into that sort of successful thing. But we know the challenges of American life. You know, I'm the sort of guy who's, you know, out there every day plugging away, and Lindsey is there plugging for the defense contractors. It's got to end.
Yeah, I mean, his love affair with Zelensky, his ongoing love affair with Zelensky is just hard to stomach at this moment. I guess we call it broke back Ukraine. And like you said, he is a full-blown globalist. He shows that almost on a daily basis. And back in 2015, he was unapologetically supporting the Export-Import Bank's renewal, which conservatives, I mean, it's like a conservative staple to try to end that, right? The conservatives have been trying to end it for decades on the grounds that it was one big crony capitalist enterprise. Actually, let's revisit what he had to say about that. Take a listen.
We unilaterally surrendered and shut down the Exim Bank. Got to make it better politics to be for this bank. If you shut the bank down, how many jobs would you create? 0. If you shut the bank down, how much money would you save? You would lose money. So this makes no friggin' sense to me, quite frankly, that we're even having this discussion given the way the world really is.
He demonstrates, he pays lip service on TV, right, when he goes on Fox News, particularly Sean Hannity. But he consistently demonstrates that he's more a globalist than for the people of South Carolina. So why does he keep getting reelected? Is it that people haven't been paying attention up to this point? I think they're paying attention now. Why do we still have Senator Lindsey Graham?
You know, there's always going to be mysteries in this world, but at bottom, because no one's gotten the courage together and come with the right group of people to make this thing happen. And look, we are, as you know, the past election was a godsend that the Lord stepped in and spared Donald Trump, and we are where we are today. But this is far from over, people. We are just beginning on this race. We have to finish the race, and that's why the people of South Carolina are going to come together and give Lindsey the door. You know, you watch him in those clips and you just think, oh, I'm thinking of a wind-up doll, literally with one of those white things on his back, and you just insert, you know, the Defense Department contractor cartridge or the globalist cartridge or whatever he wants, the Russia hoax stuff, and he's just wound up with talking points. But he's so far away from the values of the people here in the state. The only thing I would think of is, like, you know, it's Sunday morning and we're in church, but where is he? He's out doing the network broadcast, and I get out about 12 noon and I'm reading about the next group of people he wants to bomb or put boots on the ground. He's just obsessed with war, and he's obsessed with sending your kids, your grandkids, your husband overseas for whatever his big corporate interests want him to do.
That pretty much sums up every appearance he makes on a Sunday show is a cry for war in some part of the world, whether it's Ukraine or Iran or wherever. And it is noteworthy that he doesn't have children of his own, right? And you are running, you said, because of your kids, you know, you want a future, and that's how I feel. And South Carolina is one of the most conservative states in the union. My husband and I, when we were leaving Washington, D.C., it was our other option. We looked at South Carolina. I love it. I still love visiting. We just drove through there a couple of weeks ago. What do South Carolinians care about most? As they're watching this administration, what is important to them, Paul?
Well, it's the very basis of our campaign. And in fact, it's the entire basis of this great republic. It's 3 words. It's God, it's family, and it's country. And that's basically, if you look through everything at that prism, you'll find out what people here on the ground really want and care about. And, you know, Lindsey there, like, again, the contrast of coming out of church every Sunday and reading, he said, what in our name? And I think to myself, what do the rest of the world, the rest of our 49 other states, our brethren over there, think about the people in South Carolina? Do they think we're a bunch of warmongers? Do they think that we're, obsessed with running overseas and coddling dictators on spending $400,000 of taxpayer money? No. What they should know is we're trying to get better schools for our kids. We're actually trying to get roads that work. We're trying to build the infrastructure that will make a 21st economy and bring those jobs back home. Look, I came from blue collar roots. My family came here with nothing. They went and fought the wars. They paid their taxes, and then they came home to their jobs to see them shipped over to China, where else. And the people here in South Carolina, like all the good folks out there, this is the salt of the earth. These folks, they didn't have a choice but to vote for Lindsey Graham. And that day is over. Liberation Day is June 9th, 2026, and Project 2026 is taking off.
I just want to say this because I want to highlight your background a little bit. You have served in several capacities in the first term, but amongst those positions you held was at the Office of Presidential Personnel. So you understand how important personnel is. And to get some of that personnel that you want, you have to have a Senate, right, that is going to confirm them. And that does not always happen. Sometimes the Trump administration has happened to cater to a Senate they know is not truly America first, right? And in the majority. And they have to kind of pick based on who they know they can get confirmed. You would be another America first confirming vote, right?
I'm 100% America first. Look, I've been a Trump guy since before Trump was in this. I was hoping he ran in 2012. But the Senate's on vacation right now. They should be churning out all the nominations and passing that through the floor. The president needs an actual allied group of people, senators, who are going to push this agenda forward. And that starts with, reconditioning people. Lindsey, what did he do in 2017 when we had houses of Congress? He went around and tried to delegitimize President Trump instead of building a $17 billion wall. Now we're 20 million invaders later. If they had just spent 17 billion instead of having Lindsey run around and talk about Russian hacking, we may have been in a completely different place. You can basically trace everything that's gone wrong. 3 foreign wars, endless, all those people, their lives ruined and families broken. $30 trillion spent. This is his career in the Senate. That's 24 years. He does not deserve another 6. And the people here in South Carolina, they boo him, and the boos are only going to get louder.
Yeah, they booed him even when he was on stage with President Donald Trump. I mean, with Trump standing right next to him. And I hope Trump hears that 3 times. I hope Trump hears that. He's continued. So I'll close with this question. How decisive will a Trump endorsement be in this primary race? I mean, the people don't even like Lindsey with Trump standing beside him.
Look, we in South Carolina love President Trump pretty much more than anything. But it's
Big
like
time.
that great philosopher Meatloaf said in the song, when it comes to us voting for Lindsey Graham for another time, it's like, we would do anything for Trump, but we won't do that. That's not happening. MAGA is going to, that's not even acid reflux. That's projectile. You try to jam him down the throat. We're not having it. Look, there's an option now. It's more than an option.
Yeah.
I was the one who put together this program. If you like the first 180 days of Trump, it's because about 1,000 plus patriots came together in Project 2025 and did the spade work for the last 3 years. Every Monday I'd get up and fly to the swamp and we'd get the group together. And now President Trump's firing on all cylinders. So there's more of that to come, but he needs allies in the Senate, and that's what we're going to be.
Yeah, he really is. And we're going to talk about the tariff wins just a little bit later in the show. Actually, up next. Paul Dans, we will keep following this campaign. I personally believe, I drove through South Carolina, saw so many pro-America, pro-Trump signs. It is America first country, and they deserve a senator who is America first. And honestly, the country does, because Lindsey Graham has held us back in so many ways to the swampy administration, swampy deep state. And America deserves better. This is about more than South Carolina, and that's why I'm so excited about it. Paul Dans, thank you
100%.
so much.
We need your prayers. We need your help. Check us out at pauldans.com. And thank you for everything.
pauldans.com. Thanks, Paul. As I said, up next, we talk about the big win on the tariff front for Trump overseas. That's after the break.
With everybody talking about making America healthy again, I thought today'd be a great day to talk to all my fellow patriots about the importance of making your homes healthy again. Well, we have proudly partnered with airwaterhealing.com and their revolutionary whole home air purification system. The V3 from Air Water Healing does 3,000 square feet of purification. It eliminates dust, mold, viruses, and odors. But here's the part I love. They require no filters to ever be changed and virtually no maintenance. Whether you suffer from asthma, allergies, seasonal bronchitis, or just want to protect your family from the flu or even greater threats, don't wait to get your V3 from airwaterhealing.com today. Use code Lindell for 20% off in savings and free shipping. That's promo code Lindell at airwaterhealing.com.
In more positive economic news, President Donald Trump is on a tear against Federal Reserve Jerome Powell, chairman, who continues refusing to lower interest rates despite the newest inflation rate dropping to 2.7%. Just 0.7% away from the 2% threshold that most economists say is preferable for the U.S. economy to be at. Trump has become so incensed by Powell that he has given the Fed chairman a new nickname. Trump is calling him Too Late Jerome Powell. Listen.
He's always been too late, hence his nickname, Too Late. He should have cut interest rates a long time ago. Europe has cut them 10 times in the short period of time, and we cut them none. The only time he cut them was just before the election to try and help Kamala or Biden, whoever the hell it was, because nobody really knew. Obviously, that didn't work, but he tried to cut them for the Democrats, Kamala, and how did that work out? You'll tell me. It didn't work out too well, did it? But I think he does a terrible job. He's costing us a lot of money, and we fight through it. It's almost, the country's become so successful that it doesn't have a big impact, but it does hurt people wanting to get a mortgage. People want to buy a house.
Things came to a head last week when President Donald Trump made a surprise inspection visit to the lavish renovations that the taxpayers are funding for Jerome Powell's beloved Federal Reserve building in Washington, D.C. And Trump came at the Fed chairman with this bombshell.
Take a look, and it looks like it's about $3.1 billion. It went up a little bit, or a lot. So the 2.7 is now 3.1.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah, I haven't heard that from anybody at the Fed.
Yeah, it just came out.
Our notes had it about 3.1 as well.
3.1.
3.2. This came from us?
Yes. I don't know who does that.
You're including the Martin renovation. You just added
our entire capital.
Yeah, you just added in a third building is what that is. That's a third building.
Well, no,
the
but
Martin building.
it's a building that's being built.
No, it was built 5 years ago. We finished Martin 5 years ago.
It's part of the overall work.
That's a staggering amount of money that the Federal Reserve is blowing through. Over $3 billion Jerome didn't even know about, while preventing already strapped young Americans from entering the housing market because Too Late Powell is keeping interest rates too high. President Trump, when prompted by that reporter, had this to say about, had said that he would fire him in that soundbite you just heard. We're now joined by Carlos Cortez of America First Retirement and Cortez Wealth Management to discuss. Hi, Carlos. It's good to see you. We've talked a little bit about this in the past, and I know so many people, self included, who's sitting on the fence about buying a house because of the interest rate. I understand there's drawbacks even with lowering it too fast and too much, right? I know Trump wants it to come down significantly. We talked with Ed Dowd last week about how you would actually lower the rate without throwing us into a recession. How do you see this best proceeding, and for people to then get back in the housing market? I know Trump's very concerned about the housing market.
Yeah, so man, there's so much stuff going on, Emerald, and thanks for having me. It's good to see you too. Um, Basically, like we're in a rock and a hard place because the dollar is weakening as we speak, and gold is going up. Lowering interest rates is not going to uh, really have the impact, unfortunately, what Trump thinks or what the economy thinks. So when we lower interest rates historically, and historically speaking, the Fed is always late to the game. Like we never should rely on the Fed. It's a legal entity anyway, but that's another dissertation or another topic for another day. When it comes to lower interest rates, it actually is a burdensome to our foreign entities, our foreign investors. So if we lower interest rates more so, it's not just too late Jerome Powell. There's also 11 others on that board. Jerome's the one with the speaker capabilities. So we have a 12-headed beast, and if you cut off one head, you still got 11 other knuckleheads that we got to fight. So even though if we get rid of Jerome Powell, there's still 11 others that half of them already do not want to lower interest rates, by the way. So they're looking at the job markets, they're looking at consumer spending. Yes, they're looking at inflation. But that's the honest truth, Emerald. And if we lower interest rates, yes, it will promote more spending from a consumer standpoint. Banks will be able to lend out more, businesses will be able to thrive more, and it will also increase the tariffs actually have been more of a benefit than the actual trying to lower the interest rates, because the win with the tariffs actually helps our economy to make more money, the government to be more profitable without taxing the heck out of you and I, and the salt tax, obviously here in Florida and other elsewhere. Um, but having those tariffs win is a huge thing because it can promote national security, can promote expansion of our economy, and more importantly, a stronger job market. So I'm really excited to see that, and it creates like leveraging moving forward. So if we're at a tariff war with a country, they're not going to mess with us because Trump knows how to play chess, and he's been doing it pretty well. But speaking about real estate, people are leaving out of the droves in Florida. I mean, if you remember post COVID,
Hmm.
everybody wanted to move to Florida. And what I would say to our listeners on my show or your show or all of Lindell TV, um, is don't look at your primary home as an investment. That is one of the things that does not have to make financial sense. So people ask me, hey, should I sell my home at a loss and buy one at a discount? Or, is it a good time to buy? Guys, it's your home. You don't need to make financial sense with your home. It's where you dwell, it's where your family grows and creates memories. And if it's at a loss, so be it. If it's at a gain, great. But it is your home. So wherever you decide to move, just keep that in the back of your mind. Interest rates will fluctuate. Memories will never be able to be remade. And it's real estate is such a difficult thing because it is interest rate sensitive, and people are leaving all over. Like if you look on Zillow, the inventory is up over 80% in Cape Coral, here in Tampa. We're also seeing massive sell-offs in Las Vegas and in Mordano, California. It's everywhere because the interest rates are so high. The actual affordability of a home is not there. 401k withdrawals are high. Foreclosures are coming back. The yield curve is still inverted, so you have a 10-year paying just as much as a 5 and 2 year. So whenever we see that, we see signs of recession. Speaking about tomorrow, tomorrow at 8:30, we'll get not the final number, but the hard estimate of what the GDP is going to be like tomorrow. My guess, my prognosis is it's going to be slightly positive because if you remember, Emerald, the last quarter, it was negative. And if we have two negative quarters of GDP, technically speaking, I know from my business degree, two negative quarters of GDP equals a recession. So we had a hard
Hmm.
time with that during the Biden administration. We didn't know what a woman was. Heck, if we know what a
Yeah.
recession is. So that's my 2 cents. Market update. I think we'll start to see the S&P continue to rise as we go through this AI takeover. It's really all propagated by really the big seven: Nvidia, Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft.
Hmm.
And so as we see those companies be successful, the QQQ index, be on the lookout for that, because that is primarily driven by technology. And here's what I say to a lot of clients is that all 28 recessions we've had, every single daggone time, the technology sector has been the #1 sector in healthcare that has pulled us out of a recession. So if you think we're going into a recession, you probably want to look at big tech or even QQQ. Again, this is not investment advice. This is education and information purposes only. But I would look at technology if it comes down through this next quarter or so as a huge, huge opportunity to grow in the equity space if you're trying to build your retirement. But more so, now is time to protect what you have, and that's what I do for a living here: is transform clients' portfolio, make sure is that their retirement is secure, and that we can navigate through the ups and downs of the uncertainty that we see.
Yeah, I mean, there is still uncertainty, and that's, as you said, but we're expecting positive growth tomorrow for the GDP report, right? But I have talked to several economists who said we're already in a recession. We're just not admitting it yet. So we'll see how these trade deals factor in. Um,
I
yeah,
agree.
but as you said, it's also about protecting your wealth. I like what you said about your home. I'm going to share that with my husband. I'm going to use that line on him as I'm looking. And Al says
Yeah,
it's not an investment, it's your memories. I'll go for the
that's
emotion.
right.
I want to let y'all know you can catch Carlos right here on the LindellTV network every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern for more insight like this. Let's see. Let's check out those GDP numbers. I'll be interested to see what you have to say about those. And you can catch that, of course, Thursday morning. You'll probably have the wrap up on that. Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you, dear. See you
Good
soon.
to see you.
All
Bye.
right, bye.
Big exclusive at the Gateway Pundit, revealing that Arizona State Senator and Executive Director of the Election Fairness Institute, or EFI, Mark Fincham, y'all know his name right here on the show, and former Tennessee Assistant Police Chief Sean Taylor, he's the Senior Research Analyst for EFI, have found very suspicious property transactions totaling in the billions that are now under review. And get this, guess where the trail leads back to? Act Blue leaders, top Act Blue leaders in donor network. It's donor network. It's a web of accomplices, according to the Gateway Pundit. Now, the findings come as a part of a years-long investigation, and according to TGP, it's at the center of this shocking discovery is what investigators are calling the magic mortgage money laundering scheme, which appears to be tied directly to Act Blue and its donor channels. The Gateway Pundit reports that this scheme allegedly uses inflated property sales and rapid same-day flips as a pipeline to funnel illicit funds through the U.S. financial and political systems. Now, this isn't the first time that Act Blue has been accused of money laundering. If you'll recall from an episode of The Absolute Truth over a year ago, election fraud sleuth Peter Berniger explained how money laundering via Act Blue works to fund Democrat candidates. Listen.
Smurfing is structured campaign money laundering. It's where the bad guys want to take a large sum of money, say $50 million, divvy it up into various campaigns across the country, including Fannie Willis's, whereby they reduce the transaction amount, contribution amounts to very small amounts, from 50 cents, $3, $7, $25. But then they replicate those transactions by the tens of millions over the years.
And in other news, political target Douglas Mackey is fighting back after the Biden regime attempted to throw him in jail for a 2016 meme related to Hillary Clinton's campaign. After being exonerated recently in an appellate court, and as Mackey said right here on The Absolute Truth a few weeks ago, that he planned to do, Mackey has announced that he will be suing. He is now suing the U.S. government for what was done to him. And he's retained a pretty firebrand of an attorney named James Burnham Burnham previously served as general counsel for DOGE, as well as counsel to the president, Donald Trump, also the DOJ Civil Rights Division, and the Attorney General's office. President Trump made a splash overseas, achieving a historic trade deal with the European Union and proving the naysayers wrong yet again. But not only was it an economic win for the 47th president, but the trip also presented a victory in optics on the global stage, as the real estate mogul president received European leaders at his property in Aberdeen, Scotland, the U.S. president holding court on his own turf in European territory. Our own Allison Steinberg has the full recap from the White House.
It's a very powerful deal. It's a very big deal. It's the biggest of all the deals. It will be the biggest of all the deals.
President Trump announced a new trade deal with the European Union on Sunday, unveiling a new 15% tariff on European imports while keeping existing tariffs on steel and aluminum in place. This trade relationship represents close to 30% of global commerce and 43% of the world's total GDP. And now, this new deal is laying the groundwork for future economic collaboration between the two sides, enabling the EU to open its markets while investing $600 billion to the U.S. and purchasing $750 billion in American energy. The EU also agreed to set its tariffs on U.S. goods at 0%. European countries are even committing to buying a significant amount of U.S. military equipment.
And they're agreeing to purchase a vast amount of military equipment. We don't know what that number is, but it's the good news is we make the best military equipment in the world, so sort of you have to do that.
Even reporters who were skeptical of the tariffs couldn't believe how good this trade deal was.
I have a question for the EU Commission President. What are the U.S. concessions? What is the U.S. giving up in the deal, if anything?
So the starting point was an imbalance, a surplus on our side and a deficit on the U.S. side. And we wanted to rebalance the trade relation. And we wanted to do it in a way that trade goes on between the two of us across the Atlantic, because the two biggest economies should have a good trade flow between us. And I think we hit exactly the point we wanted to find. Rebalance, but enable trade on both sides, which means good jobs on both sides of the Atlantic, means prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, and that was important for us.
There's no doubt that these tariffs are bringing a surplus of money into our country, despite fears a few months back that Trump's deals would cause an economic meltdown. Quite the contrast from what we're seeing now.
So the tariff revenues are amazing, right? $700 billion a year. That's just net new money the government never had before. So you take that every year for 10 years, that's $7 trillion. And then what they're not counting is the way the president is smashing open these markets.
The S&P closing at records each day this week. First time it's done that in almost 4 years, back to the go-go days of late 2021.
I think Trump has eroded global trust in the American economy and American deal-making.
You mean the all-time high market ever in history?
It's high because they don't believe.
The all-time high?
They think Trump is going to chicken out.
Never been higher. Never been worth more. Never been more successful. Never.
When the liberation
eroded my trust. All-time high. Today at 4:30. In history, never worth more. What are you talking about?
Even Bill Maher, who's becoming more and more disillusioned with the Democrat Party, finally admits the tariffs are working.
Now, I remember along with probably most people, was saying at the beginning, oh, you know, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the country was, the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that, not from I just hate Donald Trump. I don't see a country in a depression at all. I see people out there just living their lives. And I would have thought, and I got to own it, that these tariffs were going to sink this economy by this time, and they didn't.
Trump has thoroughly delivered on his promises to make exceptional deals, and they are even brokering peace around the world. The president announced Monday that he successfully mediated a ceasefire between Thailand and Cambodia after threatening to block trade deals with both nations unless fighting over their centuries-long land dispute is stopped.
So we solved it through trade. I said, I don't want to trade with anybody that's killing each other, so we just got that one solved. And I'm going to call the two prime ministers who I got along with very, very well and speak to them right after this meeting and congratulate them. But it was an honor to be involved, and that was going to be a very nasty war.
Trump essentially did the same thing when he used trade to negotiate a ceasefire between India and Pakistan earlier this year, for which Pakistan nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, will this work for the Russia-Ukraine war? Earlier this month, Trump threatened to slap 100% tariffs on Russian imports if a peace deal is not made. That deadline has been reduced now from 50 days to just 10 to 12 days.
There's no reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
That is what you call the art of the deal. Now that the EU agreement is in place, it's up to other nations like Mexico and Canada to reach a deal with the U.S. before the August 1st deadline, when tariffs will take effect. Will the trade war continue, or will nations come to an agreement that is sensible and prosperous for the world? Reporting for LindellTV, I'm Allison Steinberg.
Thank you for that, Allison Steinberg. Even the corporate propagandists, as you saw, are having to admit that the Trump tariffs are working. In fact, here's even Trump-hating Jeff Zeleny on CNN with this surprising report.
Isabel, the bottom line is this is the biggest trade deal in President Trump's effort to effectively reshape the global trading order. That has been one of his central priorities since taking office in January. He's been issuing many threats of tariffs, but they clearly have been working in terms of bringing other countries, allies, and adversaries alike, in some cases, to the negotiating table. And the latest example was today here in Scotland, when the leader of the European Commission, who of course is negotiating for the European Union, she agreed to a 15% across-the-board tariff. Now that is significantly higher than the 10% tariffs in existence now, but it's much lower than the 30% threat that was coming on Friday and the 50% threat that was made in May. So clearly there has been an instance where the president has been using his threats of higher tariffs as a negotiating tactic.
It's good to see you, gentlemen. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me on.
Dan, what do you make of the EU trade deal? Is it truly the art of the deal?
It's a big win for America. It's a big loss for Europe. The Euros are going nuts. They got a 15% tax on their companies. We get a 0% tax on theirs. However, Europe is not, Europe has been living off us for 70 years. We've been paying their military. The only reason they have national health insurance is because we pay their military. We're running a $235 billion trade deficit with them now. So, and a lot of this is a tax dodge, right? Europe's not better at us than making pharmaceuticals. It's you produce it in Europe so you can transfer the profits to Ireland and then send it over here. So this absolutely relationship needed to be rebalanced. Trump's doing that. The workers of the Midwest and around the country have been waiting for the Washington, D.C. to figure this out, that there is no free trade. You look at the German car makers. These are state-owned companies. They're heavily owned by their labor unions and their local governments. So free trade only exists in economics textbooks. It's not in the real world. Trump has realized that. He's taken the mantle to start implementing fair trade for the United States and its workers.
This is sort of what you're making the case for in your book, Reshore, Spencer. It seems to be going to plan, yes?
Hey, I've been writing about this topic for 10 years, and we're finally seeing the fruits. We're finally seeing the fruits of the tariffs. Everything that Dan Collins said is correct. I'd like to pick up on another thread of this deal, though. And I thought this deal was too good to be true, to be honest. I thought the tariffs were great. But on top of that, the European Union has committed to buying $750 billion worth of American energy products like liquefied natural gas, like oil, over the next 3 years. That's $250 billion a year. It almost sounds too good to be true. Can you imagine that? So if you look at the exports or the imports that Europe is getting in terms of energy, they're importing about $400 billion a year worth of energy. Essentially, they would have to rebalance their entire energy imports to facilitate this deal, which is great because it gives America a ton of leverage, further leverage over the European continent. Rather than buying oil from OPEC countries, they'd be buying oil from America, which not only strengthens, the trade relationship, but it also strengthens our security relationship and commitments with Europe. And I'll tell you what, if they don't rebalance and they're still buying oil from diversified suppliers, they're going to be paying like $250 a barrel to American producers, which is an absolutely massive windfall. I mean, this is bordering on tribute to America. So I think it goes almost beyond what a good trade deal would look like.
Wow. I see you nodding, Dan.
Yeah, it's huge. This is a $2 trillion trading relationship. So it's actually twice as large as the U.S.-China trading relationship. So it's not small. It's great that it's finally getting rebalanced. We've been carrying Europe for 70 years since World War II. It's time to balance out the relationship. I think it's going to be great for U.S. car industry. 15% duty doesn't sound like a lot, but on a price of a vehicle, it's massive. Our car industry is about to double. We've been stuck at 9 million units annually since 1970. Okay, we're going to go up to 15 or 16 million units. So you're going to see car production double. For every car job, there are jobs attached to that. So you're going to reindustrialize, redo the whole middle class, and the age of deindustrialization and financial speculative capitalism hopefully is finally coming to an end.
Since this is such a big deal that you said, Dan, how does this factor into the outstanding deals, right? The ones that have not been made yet. Since this is so big, does it put pressure on the ones that are a smaller trade partner per se?
Yeah, I think absolutely. The whole global trading system, everybody runs a trade surplus with us. Like literally hundreds of countries. Because the whole system has been geared to them blocking their markets and selling into our markets. And Washington, D.C., and none of these guys have ever stepped foot in a factory before, have been clueless, right? They're arguing this free trade, and everybody, the rest of the world's sitting there giggling. They're laughing at us. So now this is getting restructured. Everybody's going to have to get in line. Trump is utilizing what America's major weapon is, which is our consumer market. Okay, and now we're shifting taxation from production to consumption, right? You want, my friends on the left, if you want higher taxes, bring back the factories, make them reshore. The reason why they left is to get away from taxes. Okay, we had the highest corporate tax rate in the world from 2000 to 2015, 38%. We were number 2 to North Korea. They all left. Okay, a lot of them went to China, but if China wasn't there, they were going somewhere. They got out, and to this day, that whole tax arbitrage, labor arbitrage scheme has been in place, funded by Wall Street, and you've seen what's happened to the Rust Belt. They've seen their communities crumble. They've seen the issues with drugs. They've seen all the social problems, and now it's time to get this fixed. So Trump's tariffs will reshore, it will reindustrialize. Even if 15% gets all the people in the boardrooms looking and go, I can save 15% by just making it in the U.S., and that will happen over time. We haven't even seen the good parts of this yet. I'm in daily with Fortune 500s. Everyone's trying to reshore. Everyone's trying to reindustrialize. You're going to see, it won't happen immediately, but over time, you're just going to see a massive amount of plants, assets, and equipment come back to the States. And with it, it's tax base.
And that's what you used to always say, Spencer, right? The real goal of this is the reshoring, the manufacturing. Does this require more action from President Trump or Congress to ensure that happens based on the progress that we just talked, that Dan just outlined from the trade deals, right? From the immediate benefit of the tariffs, but what does the administration need to do next to ensure that this is the path that America goes down?
Once the trade deals are finished and negotiated, President Trump has to work to get these bills passed through Congress, to get them solidified. Because remember, all of this is being done by way of executive order, right? And the delegated authority that Congress has delegated under the Constitution to the executive branch. All of this can be undone by the next president unless it's codified by Congress. So it's absolutely of paramount importance that Congress gets off their ass and gets this taken care of, right? This needs to be done through Congress, right? What President Trump is doing is he's paving the way. He's showing everybody that the tariffs work. and proving it to the American people that we can reshore and reindustrialize. But ultimately, Congress has to pick up the mantra, and they need to get this passed through Congress. And I want to pick up on one point that my friend here pointed out. He said that America has got the big consumer market, and you can't emphasize that enough. You have to understand, America has the biggest consumer market in the world, and everybody wants to get their goods on American shelves, just like how everybody wants to get their goods on Walmart's shelves, right? Because if you're a producer, you get your stuff on Walmart's shelves, you know you have access to a huge market, you know you're going to make money. Foreign producers want to get their goods into America by that same logic, and they will pay the price to do that. And right now, the price to enter America's market is tariffs. And this is why we see a lot of foreign producers eating the cost of these tariffs. Why? Because they know that if they can get their products into America's market, they're going to make money, right? So America benefits when we impose tariffs, not just because we get this revenue, not just because it incentivizes foreign companies to reshore their production to America, but because in a lot of cases, these foreigners are going to pay those tariffs because that's the price to access America's market. It's the same logic that keeps Walmart goods cheap. It helps keep these imports cheap when we impose these tariffs.
Yeah. Well, good news. It's so nice to have like a fully positive segment of something going right. This is excellent. Wow. Too much winning. I love it. Thank you both, Dan Collins, Spencer Morrison. So good to see you. Anything? Sounds like you have something else to say, Dan. Before we go, we have a minute if you want to say something else.
It's all good. We're not out of the woods yet, as you've just covered here on the show. The housing market's been semi-frozen for years, but yeah, no, it will take time. Hopefully, we have the time, as Spencer mentioned, to get this encoded by Congress and see the real benefits that come from all these jobs and industrialization and tax receipts. It's happening.
And then we can revive the housing market with that, right? When people have really good jobs, when the money's flowing here in the U.S., then the housing market will see the benefit, right? Because it is a major concern. I mean, people are warning that January 2026 is the date I keep hearing that there could possibly be another housing crash.
It's very possible. I mean, we got deindustrialized, as I mentioned, 2000 to 2015, 80,000 factories are gone. We made up for that by printing money, creating a housing bubble, creating a stock bubble. We're in a bubble economy in many ways. I mean, NVIDIA is now worth $4 trillion. It's crazy. It was a few years ago, we were talking a company worth $1 trillion. Apple was amazing. You're talking.
And all their assets are abroad. All the asset and human capital is abroad. Think about that. $4 trillion on paper. Right? Yeah, I know, but it's all in Taiwan, right? It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They don't even have their own factories, and they're worth $4 trillion. So, yeah, I mean, you got to say it's kind of a bubble. So we could get that crash at that's the risk. We're getting all these things in place, but the system's been so bad for so long that correcting it may not be possible.
Yeah, we will see. If Trump can do that, then we'll have to stop being, I mean, at some point, if he can do that, then I'll have to probably start being a naysayer on some of the other fronts too. You know, maybe it is 5D chess, you know. Thank you both. It's so fun to talk with both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. God bless.
We're also not out of the woods when it comes to the supply chain, particularly as it relates to antibiotics. Some news you might not have heard, but you need to know related to that after the break.
Whether it's being a weekend warrior or spending time with your family, feeling your best is the key to doing the things you love. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Nirvanta. It's a natural solution designed to help you stay active and live well naturally. Nirvanta is a topical blend of all natural essential oils like frankincense, myrrh, and a proprietary gold standard plant stock extract. It's perfect for your hands, feet, knees, back, or anywhere else that needs a little extra care. Use Nirvanta proactively as part of your daily maintenance routine, and you're guaranteed you're going to feel the difference. Simply massage Nirvanta in for at least 60 seconds, 2 to 3 times a day to get the best results. And if you're not completely satisfied, you get your money back. No questions asked. There's simply no risk and no reason not to try Nirvanta today. Right now, you get 15% off with code Lindell exclusively at NirvantaHealth.com. So stop reaching out for that medicine cabinet. Get Nirvanta instead and experience the difference. Go to nirvantahealth.com. Use code Lindell to get 15% off today. Nirvanta Health. Live well naturally.
You might be confused as to why this next segment, which is all about a potential antibiotic shortage, is labeled as CCP Watch. Well, that's because over 90% of all of America's antibiotics are sourced out of China. As the Trump administration attempts to constrain and deter China's military expansion, they have found themselves in a trade war with Beijing, which has resulted in China holding the U.S. economy hostage by denying America access to vital rare earth minerals and, yes, the antibiotics necessary for treating illnesses in the United States. According to the scientific publication Nature magazine, quote, a survey conducted among IDSA members revealed that nearly 90% had experienced shortages of vital drugs, including meropenem, penicillin G, and other vital drugs. These shortages compelled 81% of the respondents to modify treatment plans, impacting roughly 10,000 patients across the nation. The situation was described as a potential wake-up call, suggesting that the reliability of antibiotic supply chains are at risk. The survey not only underscored the penicillin G shortages, but also highlighted significant shortages of other antibiotics too. One study found that pediatrics offices were hardest hit by these shortages. Compared to 2019, pharmacy staff and purchasing agents spent twice as much time managing shortages in a week, up to 25 hours. Some offices had to hire additional pharmacy buyers to manage the shortages, while others had to shift the workload onto already strained staff amid a severe industry-wide workforce shortage. Meanwhile, a survey of pediatrics offices also found that, quote, 43% of respondents indicated medication errors that had occurred were related to drug shortages, up to 38% from the 2019 survey. 27% of respondents reported that drug shortages caused disruptions in patient care, including 32% of planned medical procedures and 22% of hospital admissions. Now, to help clear us up these matters and what alternatives exist to the antibiotics we've all come to depend upon when we get sick is Mike Kunzler of All Family Pharmacy, who is a kind sponsor right here at LindellTV. And I'm glad I have you to ask about this because this is particularly concerning. Now, Mike, anecdotally, I've been hearing from friends who are parents, right? Well, I went to the doctor and my kid has a severe ear infection to the point that it's a perforated eardrum, and they didn't even prescribe me an antibiotic then. We're like, what is going on? And then we started looking into it, right? Because anecdotally, we've been hearing these stories, and it turns out that there is at least the threat of an antibiotic shortage that is having some practices modify their prescribing, what they're prescribing. What do you know about this?
So with the antibiotic shortage, we know that it started right around the COVID era. It's been happening for decades, but it's really stemmed from COVID-19, obviously an increase of bacteria infections around the world, supply chain disruptions, and then regulatory or manufacturing handles. One of the biggest things that I see is why it's not being fixed is because of the profit margins. There is no money in antibiotics. Drug manufacturers are not interested in investing if they're not making the profits. So there are other instances, but to me, I feel like one of the biggest disruptions in the supply chain is because of the profits, right? It's a very thin profit. And they're not just making money like these weight loss drugs are. Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk are bringing in billions in revenue annually, whereas these antibiotic companies, and there's millions of dollars coming in. It's just not billions. It's not what they're used to, and they're not going to invest into it, right? That's similar to what most businesses do. If you're not making money, why are you reinvesting?
So what do people do? I mean, there's a lot of people who are very concerned about this, not just parents with children. There's people who have, say, autoimmune diseases that catch, a lot of different infections that go around, and they need antibiotics, pretty regularly. We can't even remember a time pre-antibiotic, right? And we're so vulnerable to China. Now, this was brought up in the first Trump administration. You noted that this was a problem that goes back to COVID, though we might be feeling it a little bit more now, the trade war that is ongoing between the two countries. But I remember speaking specifically with manufacturing, director of manufacturing, the White House at the time, who's still in the administration the second time around, Peter Navarro. And that was one of Navarro's biggest concerns. He's like, do you understand how much of our antibiotics, pretty much our whole supply, is sourced from China? If they really wanted to cripple us, if they wanted to hit us where it hurt, that is how they can do it. So what do people do? I don't think we want to create a run on antibiotics, but there are ways to be prepared, right?
Oh yeah. So obviously, one of our biggest things here at All Family Pharmacy is trying to help the patient be prepared for the next year. Right? We go year by year. We don't want more medication than we actually need, but just being prepared, having a little bit of amoxicillin or azithromycin or levofloxacin, something in the cabinet for when you get sick. Everybody knows what antibiotic works for them during flu season, during allergy season, whatever the case may be. As we grow older, we just become accustomed to the medication that we know works for us, right? We're not doctors, we're not pharmacists. But again, when you're doing it year over year for the last 20, 30, 40 years, you understand what works for your body. And I truly know what works for my body, and I make sure that I have that medication in my cabinet. So, just being prepared. One of the things we offer is antibiotics up front. We have large purchase orders with our wholesalers. Some of the agreements and contracts we have set up is that our wholesalers will keep a 6-month supply for us ready to go. So if there is a trade war, if there is a major shortage, worse than it is now, we're ready to go for a minimum of 6 months. And then from there, we would take the necessary steps to either compound the antibiotic, because then the FDA would allow us to do something like that. We have the tools necessary to fight this, to make sure that our patients are, or they do have the antibiotics that they do need moving forward. But not every patient has the ability to access allfamilypharmacy.com, that they don't have the whereabouts. They rely on certain insurances to pay for these medications. So, it is up to every pharmacy to do this, every doctor to do this, but they're not going to do it. And that's the reality of the truth. So, we've tried to continuously drop our drug prices to make it more economic for patients to come to us just to buy a supply of antibiotics for a year. You don't need 50 tablets. You don't need 30. It's okay to just pay for a $20 treatment and just have it ready to go for when these supply chains are hit, or when China decides to stop sending us any of these, we call them APIs. It's the pure powder form of the medication. And obviously, like you mentioned, 90% come from China or India. That's just facts. It's regulations here in the United States for manufacturing, and it's forced to go to China. That's something that hopefully the administration will take a look at and encourage drug manufacturers to bring that back to the States at one point, so that we don't have to fear about these shortages. But just to put into perspective, I was looking at Eli Lilly's projections, and over the last 4 years, they invested almost 9 billion and then 27 billion into a weight loss drug. In total, since 2020 to 2025, it's $51 billion they invested into a weight loss drug. Annually, it's about 200 million into antibiotics globally. So you just see where the drug manufacturer's mind is. They're more about making money. They're more about profits than they are about the individual's health. They're not worried about our children. They're not worried about our elderly who can coli and need these antibiotics. They're more worried about selling a weight loss drug that they're making $1,000 a month. Right. And there's 1 million people worldwide that are purchasing it, and they're bringing in billions of dollars in revenue from it. So it is, part of the problem.
It is a huge part of the problem. Look, Mike, we're running out of time. I'm so glad you explained this, and I'll let our audience know that if they do want to take advantage of what you all have to offer to prepare, they can go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell, allfamilypharmacy.com/Lindell. Thank you so much, Mike. It's a hugely important story. Thanks for giving us your insight.
Appreciate it.
And speaking of supporting the show, you can go to mypillow.com, use your promo code TRUTH to take advantage of fabulous deals. And that's how this show is funded. And that's the absolute truth. We'll see you tomorrow. DC Live is up next with Allison Steinberg, so you don't want to miss that. Stick around.